Greetings and salutations. We're back again. I'm on this long ocean voyage on my raft, and some of the things that I've come up with, I haven't really annotated or documented um, in video format because OBS was not working with me, and I was getting bad, but seems to be recording okay. So I'm rolling with it. I'm kind of documenting a couple of the issues that I see. So I like the condensed map that they've done, even though it makes no sense. But I do like what they've done. I kind of in hindsight, like it's one of those things where if they would have made the equator run diagonally across the map, and then you could have had, the bottom three here, or the bottom six polar, and then the top six polar, and then do your heat belts. I think that would have made a little bit more sense. And but this works. I mean, this works. I do like it because before it was so spread out. It was painful, and it would take me like 2 days or a day to sail around basically you would auto sail is what you would do. You would just get lined up on the edge of a border and try to get it as close as you can, and then go to work. And then hopefully when you came back, you would be halfway across the map because it would take you that long to get across, especially if you were in like these alliances, because the alliance functionality was kind of hokey. It's like all you get out of the deal is a text message, but they're like, "Hey, come join me," and but they're all the way on the other side of the world. We're gonna go do Kraken, and you just happen to be in the polar region farming Yetis. Super painful, right? Um, and that leads into a bunch of other issues that exist, like with the I just my YouTube video cycled through and it was like really loud. Okay, let me turn that down. But so that leads into a bunch of other issues, like the alliance functionality needs to be reworked, and also some stuff I ran into in my early playthrough was is the ability to make companies never really worked, because a big problem in the game is people will join your company and then rob you, and this kind of leads me into the conversation of the PvP, and this would happen on the PvE servers. And on it's even more of an, because everybody thinks because it's a pirate game, the objective of the game is to steal from people and to basically loot somebody else's plunder, and then and then kill everything. Which is fine if you're like 12 years old, right? If you're 14 years old, that's perfect. But as you get a little bit more maturity in your life, you come to realize that the stuff that you play, that the customers that you want to have in your player base are the ones that are a sense of community, and you want to derive all of these mechanisms that develop that community. And by having mechanisms where guild members, you can invite a guild member, and then because of the the systems in the game don't fully work, like when you create those companies, and when you try to limit access to certain items, it doesn't work, right? It wouldn't work. So the only way I could limit items was through pin codes, and sometimes that wouldn't even work either. So it was just, you just really left yourself vulnerable, and then come find out they steal your ships, you know um, and so I think a solution is, but one of the things is the reason why I started this video was is I want to talk about servers. So I was like, you know what, I didn't enjoy the PvP experience, so I'm gonna go back to the PvE because I like the shipbuilding, and I really like the map exploration and doing the achievements. I'm kind of an achievement whore, so I'll just go through. So I think a way for the developers ahead, as I'm really happy to see that the team, there's a put a team back on it, and they're committed to working on it, and they're coming out with patches. I can't believe putting a saddle on a cow took as long as it did, but I'm super happy about it. And the farms, I'm still kind of iffy about the farms because I see some pros and cons. Like, one pro is you spend the idea is you spend more time out in the ocean. Okay, great argument. But the kind of the downside or the negative side of that is you spend it. It kind of cheapens the value of materials and resources. So, and that stuff didn't take too long to do before because that's what drove the whole farming. You breed those high level elephants and zebras, and that's what drives that economy behind that stuff. So by throwing the farms in there, you kind of erode the value of you erode the value of breeding those elephants and giraffes and stuff. And that stuff used to go have a good price. They would go for 5K, 6K, good money. And so we're kind of wondering is if that stuff was going to hold its value, if it was going to even be worth putting in the time, because breeding is takes a significant amount of times, but it's arguably one of the best aspects of the game is breeding those high level animals with it's just one unique characteristic that kind of drives that community aspect that I was talking about, where people have to interact. They create Discord servers and they're selling their bred animals. And if they could take that same synergy, that same kind of mechanic about animal breeding, and they could take it to kind of the next level with ships, and they could make it to where ships, through skill and expertise, ships would have more value, and by creating more value and
Gen
kind of
Zero, Kraken, said nice.
more value, and that would segue into that community piece, and that would drive that interaction, and kind of drive that sense of community. So one last thing though on this aspect is I do believe that there is a need for PvP. I just think an entire server of it is a disaster, and it kind of, to get me back on point here, is that the whole kind of construct is of having the PvE in Europe, when I would think that there's some metrics that need to be done in this, because I'm pretty sure your player base is in America and not in Europe. When you look at the population, and you've kind of penalized your player base by having them have a high ping load when they're playing in Europe, and then you have your PvE server, I mean PvP server in America, and that's just an entire shit show, and you don't have the population that sticks around for that. So I would take some hard metrics on that and figure out where your player bases is and where the community lies, and for those, and whatever has the strongest metric is the one that gets the top priority. But I think a good solution to that, because there really needs to be a PVE variant in North America. Let me get off here because this thing is broken where I can't look at the map. So if I hit E and I get off hit M, or no, I for Atlas, okay, and then I look at this, I think the solution is that you have in the center of the map here, you basically, is the Kraken zone in the center of the map, and so I think the way to do it is the tiles around the scattered. Maybe it's like E5, G5, G7 are PvP tiles, and then maybe the three tiles right here on this side, the three tiles right here on this side, the D7s, D8, these three, kind of like they're like an arrow pointing inward to the F6, and those are your PvP zones. Those are the zones that you have your ship on ship combat, and you have a few tiles with those characteristics, and so that way, when and I think all servers need to have this, because just having, you can still own land regardless of its PvP or PvE. You can still own land, but on a PvP server, the issue is when you own land, you see all these crazy exploits of the game where people will put like 1,200 puckle turrets on an island, and so that means that island is done. It's off limits to your regular player. You can't go do any treasure maps, any exploration, any of that stuff. And it basically, you kind of take away a game mechanic. You spent months or a year working on this game mechanic of treasure hunting, and then single-handedly, you've created another component of the game that takes away from it or disables it completely. And that's what PvP does. So PvP needs to justly exist in the realm of raiding bases and ship areas in these lawless areas, and not on these outer perimeters. And it needs to really take a hard look at some of that stuff and reboot some of those. Like, it's okay to own land. Like, you don't lose your land claim if you're on this outer thing, but you don't have to defend it the same way that you do when you're in the lawless zone. When you're in the lawless zone, that's when you have your structure PvP and your ship PvC in this tight ring right around here, or these arrows that I talked about. And then the F6. There's no PvP. That's your boss fight. That's where you got to be a teamwork. So it becomes a safe zone. So if you're running, you can run into this zone to try to get away, but then you face the risk of the Kraken, right? So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But it's this whole construct of taking assets away from a region, all in the name of PvP, when the PvP experience is a shit show. It really is a shit show. I recommend that the devs go into God mode and go look at these islands and see what kind of shit show they are, and think about it as from a community based experience, because you can have 3 or 4 guys landlock an island, but that doesn't develop a sense of community. That just means these shitheads landlocked an island and they're just destroying ships. A lot of times people never go back. If you're a solo player, you just never go back. You're like, oh, I guess I'm not going to mess around with that shit. Or you might try to get even, but there's 1,200 puckle guns. Um, so it's like, and then you put these farms out there that give them infinite resources, so they can sustain that kind of player environment without the work. And so I think that that's counterintuitive to the original design and intent of the game, because there's some funky mechanics that really work against each other, and I think that shows in its player population. Like, this is a beautiful game, beautiful, beautiful game, and there's no reason why this game shouldn't have a population of 20 or 30,000 concurrent players. In some aspects, I think it's a better game than Ark. Um, but it's just some of those things that really need to be revisited and have a conversation outside of the echo chamber. I think some of these conversations take place in an echo chamber inside the development studio, and they're not looking at it from kind of the player. And I also noticed that a lot of the devs, they'll play a niche game like RimWorld, and they don't play their own games, and so the issue is. Kind of the issue that runs into is, because they're not playing the genres, the survival genres, they kind of lose connection to with why people play those games. Like, I played WoW. Full confession here, and I don't like to admit to this, but I played WoW for like 10 years off and on. And one of the biggest factors for me was leaving WoW was ultimately the game became extremely dated. And when you look at, I mean, they milked that thing to the end, and you look at visually, still it was zone based, and visually it was still running on graphics. And you could argue like, oh, well, they came out with the Panda, or oh, they came out with this, and they added like a tiny 10% better fidelity on some of these. And then after 10 years, they finally upgraded the models, like the NPC models, but they were raking in billions of dollars, millions of dollars. They raked in a lot of money off of that WoW franchise, and that money didn't get re-rolled into better asset development. It's almost like that money that they got from that franchise, they took the very minimum it took to keep the servers running and pay enough staff, and then the rest of that money fed into top management. And and good on them for creating that wealth for themselves and their families, and being able to put their kids through school. But on the same token, uh, nobody gives a shit about WoW anymore, and so you kind of have to plan into design obsoletes and plan into um, community. And if they, I can't speak enough to the importance of community. If you allow these mechanisms to exist, I know this is turning into a run on, and I apologize. But um, yeah, the PvP thing is a shit show. It is a huge shit show. Well, anyways, I realized that got into a little bit of a rant at the end there. I'm trying to find my island because my compass is not working on my raft. I don't know why it's not working on my raft, and I'm going the wrong way. See, I got my rant. I'm trying to go south. I'm trying to go south, and I can't. Got to get this wagon turned around. Got to get this wagon turned around. Ugh. But yeah, this is my third video. I'm gonna figure out my old forums account because I stopped playing once the developers stopped updating the game, and so I'm glad they finally started updating the game. And once they started doing their weekly updates, it's like, okay, I can justify playing a game where there's going to be content. If there's no content, or if there's no weekly update, I'm not playing. Like, you got to remind me of your contribution, and I'll continue to support the project as long as I know that there's both sides. All right. Thank you for watching.